All right, good evening, everyone. So we're starting on Memtes Amid Bays 49b, and this is our last full Amid of the fourth Perek. So you can see we are, as I keep saying every time, we're nearing the home stretch. Though not quite so soon. We may need to start doing maybe a daf each week at some point to make sure we hit our goal, but I'll try to calculate as we get closer to May to June. All right, we're picking up the words Amarei Shalakish on the fourth wide line, and we're continuing talking about the Nisa Chayain and Nisa Chamayim, the wine libation, in particular the water libation, which was unique to the Yontif of Sukkot. Amar Rish Lakish, Bisman shemenaskin yain al gabe mizbeach, when they would pour the wine on the mizbeach, pogakin es hashishin, they would actually plug up those drain pipes that it would go down into. L'kayim hashnemar, as it says in the pasuk, Bakodesh Haseich Nesech Shechar Ladonai. Now, what does this mean? This like libation of an intoxication to Hashem. My mashma. Where do you derive that from that pasuk? Amar Papa Shechar Lashon Shtia Lashon Svia Lashon Shichros. That Shechar has the connotation of drinking, of satisfaction, and of drunkenness from it. So that's where we get it from. So the idea is that they would plug up the mizbeach, so that way, like a drunkard or something, I don't know, it's more satisfying apparently if you take it down in one big gulp. Amar
Interesting.
Papa, Shmamina, he savea inish chamra migrone savea. That we see from this that when someone drinks wine, it's in their throat that they feel the satisfaction of it. That's what gives them the what do you call it? The satiation. Amarava, Tsurba Mirabana Fishale Chamra, Ligma Gamui. And for Tsurba Mirabanan, you have like these Kola Jungerlites who are don't have they're living on a small stipend, they can't afford that much wine, so they want to get the real experience out of it, they should gulp it down. Apparently, I don't know, you talk to any wine connoisseur, they probably tell you the opposite. Rava Akasa de Berchasa Agma Gamui, and indeed that's what Rava would do. Apparently, he wasn't making much on his salary either. And that's how he would enjoy his wine. All right, I guess you could take your wine drinking tips from the Chachamim here if you would like. And as one can imagine, maybe there's some deeper, more profound idea behind it. Okay. Now, in our previous shir, we brought up some sukkim from Shir Hashirim that were relevant for when we were talking about the shisin, the cisterns, or whatever you want to translate it as. And because we brought these Pesukim Ashir Shirim, we're going to learn more about them right now. Darash Rava, my Diksiv, my Yafu Pamayich Ben Alayim Bas Nadiv. How beautiful are the steps that you take in your sandals, daughter of a Nadiv, which means like a nobleman. So Maya Vupamo Saint Shal Yisrael B'Shal Shalom L'Regel. So it's referring to the Bnei Yisrael that when they would go up the three times a year to be Ola Regel, this was something that was special. Bas Nadiv, and what's Bas Nadiv? The daughter who's the Nadiv that's referring to, that we're the daughter of whom? So Bito Shavra Avinu. It means we are the daughter of Avram Avinu, Shnikra Nadiv. Now, where do we see that Avram is referred to as Nadiv? Shnemar Nadivi Amim Nesfu im Am Elahei Avraham. So we see what Elahei Avraham, V'lohei Yitzchak Yaakov. Why is it not referring to Yitzchak and Yaakov? Right in Shemon Esrei we say Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Ella Elokei Avraham Shayitchila Legerim. That he was the first of the converts, and so when all the nations are coming in and they're called Nedivim, the ultimate Nediv is Avraham, who was the first nobleman, if you will, in the eyes of God, and we are thus referred to as the daughter or the children, the offspring of that Nediv. Okay, and then just to continue darshaning the Shir Hashirim a little bit. Tana Devei Rav Anan, my dechsiv chamuki yirechayech, the roundness of your thigh. Lama nemshul divrei Torah hiyerech. Why is the Torah likened to a thigh? Lomar lach ma yerech b'seiser af divrei Torah b'seiser. Just as a thigh is supposed to be something which is a covered part of the body, so too Torah, when it's taught, is supposed to be done b'seiser, in a hidden manner. So this is interesting. It's counterintuitive to what a lot of people think. Uh, people think, I should like sit down in the middle of the marketplace and I should just teach Torah over there and whoever comes will join, right? Sounds great. So interestingly, Rashi says, what's the issue? That shekavud ha-Torah b'tzina, that it's more honorable for Torah for not to be just something that's thrown around in the marketplace. V'lo yoshona Yoshi Vishona Begova Shal Ir, Velashanos Tamida Bashuk Kinamrim Katan. So it's interesting. On the one hand, we want to proliferate Torah. On the other hand, the Torah is some high quality information. We don't just throw that around in the marketplace. And furthermore, V'hainu Da'amar Rav Elazar, My Dechsiv, Yilucha Matov, Umashim Dorish Muchaki, Masos Mishpa, Vavas Chesed, Vahatse Leches Im Elohecha. So what does this all mean? Asus mishpat, doing justice. Sehadin, this refers to, law. Bavas chesed, loving kindness. So gmilas chesadim, this refers to gmilas chesadim. V'hatzei leches imelahecha, and what does walking humbly with your God refer to? Zohotzas ametz v'achnasas kalachuppah. This refers to funding a burial and also funding a wedding, which are things that we do in a subtle manner. V'alo dvarim kal v'chomer. And indeed, we can make kal v'chomer. Umad dvarim shedarchan lasas b'farhesia amar tor hatzi leches. And just as these kind of things, which may be done publicly, you would think, but we're told to do them privately. Dvarim shedarchan lasos b'tzina achas kam v'kama. So that's something which is meant to be done b'tzina, certainly should be continued to be done b'tzina as well. So the Torah should be taught b'tzina, and certainly these acts should be done b'tzina. All right, and that's let me just see if there was a Rashi on that. Right, Rashi's just to elucidate this. Rashi says, "Kagon tzedakah hanisenes la'ani b'seiser she'tzarich l'odia l'shum adam masha einkein b'meis b'kala." Right, giving tzedakah is easy to someone who's poor, is easy to do in a more private manner, but supporting a funeral expenses or a kala is going to a wedding, that's something that is apparently harder to do b'tzina. And but the point is, we bring this up to teach us that mitzvos in general are supposed to be done. It's interesting. You'll see sources that push in the opposite direction. That would say, you should dafka be performing mitzvos publicly so people can learn to do them. I guess there's a difference between certain things that are beyond the mechaver that people might feel a degree of embarrassment. But okay, we'll leave that as is. Performing tzedakah is more significant than all of the offerings that are brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Shnemar, as it says in the pasuk, asot tzedakah umishpat nivchar laHashem mizavach. That doing tzedakah and justice is choicier to God than bringing the offerings. Baba Rav Elazar, Gedola gemilas chasadim yosem and tzedakah. Greater is gemilas chasadim, is acts of kindness, than from charity. Shnemar, as it says in the pasuk, zir lechem l'tzedakah, kitzur lefi chesed. You shall plan for yourself tzedakah, and you shall reap according to the chesed. So what does this refer to? When somebody plants, they might get a good crop. You put an investment in, it might grow, or the stocks might just tank, and then you lose everything in there. So, sorry, that was a little too close to home. I was looking at my fidelity today. I wasn't happy. Adam kotzer vade ochel. But when someone puts something and they reap, reaping automatically gives you food. All right. Tzedakah is only completed through the chesed that it achieves. Shenemar, zeru lechem l'tzedakah katzru lefi chesed. Now, what does that mean? So, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says, katzru lefi chesed, sheskabu schar lefi chesed shaba, you get schar based on the chesed that is accomplished through it. So there's an interesting discussion. We did this year a few years ago, so I'm not expecting anyone to, remember everything. I don't remember the whole shir either. But basically, Yirmiyahu curses his detractors, and not just detractors, people who do terrible things to him, that even when they give tzedakah, it should go to the wrong place. So there's an interesting discussion. Is tzedakah based on the maisa, the deed, or is it based on the totzah, the result? The nafkamina is, if I give tzedakah and it winds up in the wrong place, and it's supposed to go to someone's Pesach Seder, and then it winds up going to I have no clue. Uh, some insert some not good cause in there. So then I have not fulfilled the mitzvah of tzedakah, and we're going to see momentarily in the Gemara that that's why it's important that people send tzedakah to somewhere that's vetted, because lav dafka, just because I'm going to try to do a good deed means that my tzedakah is going to go to the right location, and tzedakah might be a mitzvah that good intentions might not be enough, but you have to actually make sure that the result takes place as well. As we see in the Gemara, right? So Tarabanan. We'll get to this point momentarily, but one more teaching before that. In 3 ways, Gemilas Chasadim is superior to Tzedakah. Tzedakah b'mono, Gemilas Chasadim bein b'gufa bein b'mono. Tzedakah is accomplished through giving money. Gemilas Chasadim can be accomplished through money, through other ways as well. Lav dafka, it's strictly monetary. Tzedakah la'aniyim, gemilas chasadim bein la'aniyim bein la'ashirim. Tzedakah is given to those who are poor, and gemilas chasadim can be done for anyone regardless of their financial standing. Tzedakah l'chaim, gemilas chasadim bein l'chaim bein l'mesim. Tzedakah is given to someone who is alive. Gemilas chasadim is given to someone whether they're alive or whether they are deceased. There is some thing that needs to be parsed down. I think the Mefarshim do talk about, well, didn't we just talk about giving tzedakah for tzas hames, for funeral expenses? So something needs to be parsed over there about what we mean when we say tzedakah. Going forward, V'amar Rav Elazar, kol usa tzedakah umishpat, kilu milei kol olam kulo, chesed. Whoever does acts of tzedakah and mishpat, again, tzedakah we translate as charity, but it doesn't always mean charity. But basically acts of like righteousness and justice. Then they've filled the entire world with chesed. Shneimar, oiv tzedakah mishpat, chesed Hashem al haaretz, who loves tzedakah mishpat, and the chesed of Hashem, which fills up the entire world. Now, to the point that I was mentioning before, Shema Tomar Kol Likvots Kofetz. We would think there's the idea that Habali Taher, that when someone wants to purify themselves, we say that Hashem is Messiah, that Hashem helps us along that journey. So I might think, all right, I'm going to give $1 to tzedakah, and the rest is in God's hands. Nope, it doesn't necessarily work that way. Talmud Lomar, Ma'ikar Chastecha Elohim, that this has to be something that's yakar. It has to be something that is valued. Rashi says, "Sarich lases leiv uletrach ulirdof achareha lefi she'ena mitsuya tamid lezakos ba'limu ganim." You can't always rely that just because I gave tzedakah and I had good intentions means it's going to the right place. It has to be yakar to you. We have to exert ourselves. We have to give to a place that's vetted. We have to research things before we give. And however, Yachal Av Yirei Shamayim Kain, you would say maybe even for those who are God-fearing, they have to worry. Talmud Lomar v'Chetz Hashem El V'ad Olam El Yireyav. Not to worry, if you reach a certain threshold of righteousness, God will ensure your money goes to the right place. I guess we'll have to figure out when we hit that threshold of righteousness to not have to worry about where our money goes anymore. Okay. As I did not point out, but you may have figured out, there's a lot of agadata here. Arav Chama Bar Papa called him Sheish Alav Chain Biadushu Yari Shemaim. Anyone who has Chain, we know that he's a Yari Shemaim. Shnemar Bechesed Shemei Olam Vad Olam El Yirei Av. Okay, so once again, someone who has now is it different girsa? Looks like different girsa has Chesed in lieu of Chain, which might fit better with the pasuk, which actually says chesed. So I could see why they changed the girsa over there. Okay, so make it the way you will. Ramar Rav Elazar, my they say pia pascha b'chachma v'soras chesed l'shona, right? Taken from Ashes Chayil, which was taken from Mishlei. So her mouth opens up with wisdom, and the law of chesed, the Torah's chesed, is on her tongue. I don't get it. Is there one Torah that's a Torah of chesed, and there's a Torah that is not a Torah's chesed? What's that supposed to mean? Ela Torah lishma zohi Torah shel chesed. But Torah that is lishma, that is a Torah shel chesed. Shelo lishma, if it's not for the sake of Torah, zoe Torah she'ena shel chesed. So I imagine there could be a lot on here. One understanding is, I mean, what does it mean? Like a Torah lishma is a Torah of chesed. So I would have to think, and this is my own understanding of it. I'm sure someone else says this, that sometimes we can learn Torah for ulterior motives, and we could use Torah to sometimes fit our own agenda, and sometimes we might choose to be overly stringent or irresponsibly makel, and we're not really doing a chesed for anyone that way. But one is learning Torah lishma, trying to get to that mita shel Torah. That's ultimately going to produce a Torah's chesed. We could talk about halacha l'maisa, about poskim understanding the plight of the people they're posking for. This will be a lot in the Ramosha material. Maybe I should quote this in there. Anyway, Ika Damri, another version of this, another interpretation. Torah lelamda zohi Torah shel chesed, shelo lamda zohi Torah shein shel chesed. If you just sit down all day and you're just learning Torah, but you don't share it with anyone else, then that's selfish. But if you're learning Torah so that you can then go ahead and share that Torah with others, that is a Torah shel chesed, because you're not just helping yourself, but you're helping others with learning Torah as well. Okay, well, I figured we had too much Agadata today already, and we're having too much fun, so don't worry, the Gemara brings us back to our featured presentation. Back to from where we started, back to Nisa Chamayim. So in the Mishnah it told us that when the Sukkahs would fall out around the day of Sukkot, it was on Shabbos. So let's just look back at the Mishnah. Why not? Why not? So I'm just take a drink. Bro.
Amen.
So the Mishnah said that on Shabbos, k'maseh b'chol, kach maseh b'Shabbos. Well, they did on a weekday, they did the same on Shabbos. El shem mamali me'erev Shabbos, but they would fill up before Shabbos. Chavish shel zav, a receptacle, a barrel of sorts of gold. She'ena mikudeshes, menashiluach manicha belishka. So they would fill up a vessel which was not a consecrated vessel. So this is important. The Gemara asks, well, why? Why would you put it in a non-consecrated vessel and then put it in a consecrated vessel so you can do the libation? Just put it straight in a consecrated vessel. So this idea that we see throughout halacha, and it's very relevant in Beis HaMikdash, called lina, that to leave it overnight would invalidate it. This comes up with karbanos in general. Let the material lina means to rest, to lay down. To let it rest overnight would disqualify it. So what was the concern? Kasavar ain shir lamayim uklei sharis mekachin shalomidas. So now so here's a little bit of background. One might think the way to circumvent this is I could put the water into the consecrated receptacle, but either A, I have kavana deliberately not to consecrate it when I put it in, so it won't be subject to the psul of lina, or I just put in more water or less, I put in more water than the shear, so since it's not at the right amount that's supposed to be used, it will not automatically be kadosh at that point. It will be consecrated, and then it won't be subject to the disqualification of lina that applies to consecrated things for the mizbeach. So, according to the Man Damar in the Mishnah, seemingly ain shir l'mayim, he holds that there is no specific amount of water that needs to be used for the libation. So any bit that goes in is already subject to being sanctified. And also he holds by virtue of pouring the water into a consecrated vessel, even without kavana, it automatically becomes consecrated and the timer starts ticking from there. And therefore, we'd have to be careful to use it right away. But the issue is it's going to sit over Friday night, and come Shabbos morning, it will be disqualified. So they put it in a non-consecrated vessel before Shabbos, and then they put in a consecrated one on Shabbos for the libation. That's one way to explain it. There's two other ways, and we'll conclude with this. Sorry, I didn't finish reading the Gemara. And if you put it into the consecrated vessel, resultantly, it will be puzzled through lina. That's suggestion number one. That there's an inherent issue here. The other two suggestions basically say there's no actual problem inherently, but there's a gezerah due to a concern of perception. Chizkiah Amar, Kli Sharis Emekajin El Midas. No, the only way for a Kli Sharis, for the consecrated vessels of the Beis Hamikdash, to render its contents to be Mekudash is only if you intend for the contents to become consecrated through it. So then what's the issue over here? Just put the water in before Shabbos in a consecrated vessel and have in mind not to consecrate it. The Gzeira Shema Yomer Ludasis Kachu. The onlookers don't know what's going on, and they're going to think that this was consecrated already before Shabbos, and they're going to think that this idea of lina, of not leaving things overnight, is no big deal. So because of the onlookers, we're careful in that regard. And then finally, Amar of Yanai, Amar of Zera. Even if we say that there is indeed a shear for the water, ukle sharis emakach and el midas, ugzeira shema yomru lekidush yadayim v'raglayim milan. We're concerned that people think that this was set aside for the Kohen Gadol. This was from Yom Kippur. The Kohen Gadol had to wash his hands, so we're going to be concerned that people are going to think that this water also was for the Kohen Gadol. And then again, same idea. We'll be concerned for the perception of there not being an isser, sorry, psul of lina. That's the idea. So that's why they fill up and not consecrate them before Shabbos. One quick idea: Rosh Zalman Orbach in the Mincha Shlomo, back on that pasuk in Shir Hashirim. So remember, we looked at that pasuk which said, "Mayafu pamayich ben alayim." How beautiful are the footsteps in their sandals. And the Gemara said this refers to, where's the line?
The thighs.
Well, 1 second. I want the actual language, if I can find it. This refers to Yafu Pamosei Shal Yisrael B'Shasha'on L'Regel.
Oh.
This refers to the Jewish people when they were coming up in their sandals. So he cites Rav Yaakov Yosef, who was the Maggid Vilna, and he says it stresses Nalai in their sandals to show how dedicated the Jewish people were, that even when they weren't wearing their hokas or their ons or their, whatever comfortable sneakers you like, they still, in their sandals, were willing to make the trek up to Yerushalayim. So that's why the pasuk stresses Na'alayim. Okay, nice little drush over there. With that, we'll conclude, and God willing, next week, Shir will be on Wednesday evening, because on Thursday evening next week, we should be doing B'dikas Chametz. So we'll have Wednesday evening at 8:15, and I asked Matt to adjust the schedule accordingly, and God willing, we'll finish the fourth parak of Sukkah then. All right. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. Take care, Judd.
Thank you.
Phyllis,
You
a wonderful
you
evening.
too. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.